Welcome back to the Power Public YouTube channel. Today's video we're going to be showing you how to change your Rotax gearbox oil. So let's get to it. So the Rotax 125 engine has some gears in here and a balance shaft. Now the balance shaft is a counterweight to the piston. As the piston goes up, the balance shaft goes down and vice versa. Now that takes the vibration or the harmonics out of the engine so that they run smooth as silk. And that's why I recommend these engines. They're excellent and they make great power. So we're going to pop this cover off today, show you the gears inside the gearbox and change the oil as well. If you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel, giving us a thumbs up, and also don't forget to turn on the notifications. This really helps. So the reason you want to change this oil, it does deteriorate with use and it does attract a bit of moisture. Neither of those things are good for lubrication. And you've got a couple of bearings here on the balance shaft and the rest of it's sealed. Also too, you've got your intermediate gear and your water pump gear, and I'm going to show you all those in a minute. So the first thing you're going to want to do is drain the oil out of the gearbox. This is a 5mm Allen key, M6 cap screw. So just get a suitable tin. There's only 100 mils of oil in here, which is not a lot. This one here looks like it's got substantially less. So it might have had a bit of leakage. So you can see that the those black drops there in the oil, that's the contamination. That's from the gears. They've just sort of meshed together a bit, and that's why you change the oil. The more regularly you do it, the cleaner the oil will come out. So if you use a container with a clear bottom like this, you can move the oil around and check for any major contamination or chunks of gears or anything that might have gone wrong with your gearbox. Now this is not just for Rotax, this is for any engine. If you pull the oil out and you want to inspect it, use a clean container. So now that you have drained the oil, you need to remove the filler plug. And this is the breather as well. So just get your pointy nose pliers. These can be tight and you can just crack that off. And then you can open that up. Remove that, give it a bit of a clean. Now, if you were going to just fill the gearbox back up, you'd mix up your 100 mils of oil, we're going to do this later in the video, and pour it in through here. But first you must put your plug back in. So you'd put this guy back over here and do it up, and then fill in 100 cc's or 100 mils of automatic transmission fluid. But first, we're going to remove the gearbox cover and just show you the inside of the gearbox and how to change the balance gears if you had to. So the next step is just to remove all the nuts and drop the gearbox cover off. So to avoid ripping the gasket when you're pulling the covers off, and this goes for the DD2 as well, you can get yourself a pick or a screwdriver and just gently lever the gasket off either the engine or the gearbox cover. So when you're doing this, if you need to reuse the gasket, just be gentle and get your flat blade screwdriver. Now don't gouge into the aluminium, just hold the tip up from the aluminium face and slide it along on the back of the gasket. And add a little bit of pressure of just pulling the gearbox cover and it should just pop straight off. So here we have the gearbox open, and you can see here this is your counterbalance shaft, and there is a dot and a dot there. And you can also see that there is two dots on the outside diameter here and one on this tooth, and that's for the alignment to make sure that when the piston's at top dead center, you've got this at 12 o'clock and those three dots all line up together. So this is the intermediate gear, which just slides straight off, and then you've got your water pump drive gear. You can just pull that off, and there's a little pin here, that's the drive pin for the water pump gear. You can just pull that out carefully. It's just a little pin, a little roll pin, and then there's a thrust washer, so you can remove that. So next up we're going to remove the gearbox circlips and slide those gears off the crankshaft and the balance shaft. So next up we're going to remove the circlip you will need a small pair of circlip pliers. Now these can go out of shape, so you might want to invest in some new gearbox circlips. That just pulls straight off. And then the same over here. So you can see this one got bent out of shape trying to get it off the shaft, and that's why you should replace these every time you take the gears off. And then these gears just slide straight off the shaft. So now that you've got it all apart, clean all the parts, inspect them all for any damage, and then put it all back together. So the first thing you want to do is get the engine at top dead center, or 12 o'clock. So just clean an Allen key like this and put it in the spark plug hole, and wind the engine over until you feel that the T-bar is not moving anymore. You just rock it over top dead center, and then this little line here will be at 12 o'clock. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put this gear on the crankshaft first, and it's got a little dot here that needs to marry up with the line. So just move the gear around and so that till the splines line up, and make sure that that's in line there, and it should line up. You won't be able to see it very easily on these new Evo engines. It's painted, but there was a little casting mark there that would all sort of line up with that tooth, and that puts your dot here over to marry up with the other gear. The next thing we're going to do is put the balance gear on. Now the gears are the same both sides, so they can go here or here. You just got to change them around. They've got the dots marked on both sides, and they're both the same. So put this here, you've got a dot there and a dot here. So now if we slide that onto the shaft, you've just got to marry the splines up. It does jiggle around a bit because it's not fixed, it's only on some ball bearings. And then just rotate the shaft ever so slightly so that the two dots on this gear line up with the one dot on that gear. And now you've timed your balance gears for your Rotax engine. This little guy just slides straight on and pushes down inside those little cutouts on the gear, and that's the drive for this plastic gear. And now we're just going to install the circlips and it's done. Install your new circlips like so. You just push it onto the shaft and then just push them home. They snap in. You can also double check, make sure it's in the groove by adding a little bit of light pressure and just sliding it around and giving it the old eyeball check. Make sure it's down in its groove. This one's a bit easier to get in. So the last thing we got to do before we put the cover back on is just reinstall the intermediate gear and the water pump gear. First things first, we're going to install the thrust washer, then the pin, then the water pump gear, then the intermediate gear. So now we're ready to reinstall the gearbox cover. Reinstall the screws, paying attention to a couple of them are shorter than the others because there's two longer screws just here. So the last very important point is to fill the gearbox back up with oil. Measure out 100 cc's of automatic transmission fluid and pour it in through the filler plug. Last but not least, screw on the filler cap, breather, and just nip it up with your pointy nose pliers. So there you have it, the Rotax Max gearbox service and oil change. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notifications, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Power Republic, or go to our website www.powerrepublic.com.au, grab yourself a t-shirt or a Rotax Max 125. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.